Saturday afternoon, man, the Browns went to the Ravens' house, M&T Bank Stadium, looking to upset the Ravens. But the game kind of went how everybody expected the game to go. The game ended how everybody expected the game to end. Lamar had a Lamar game. Derrick Henry had a Derrick Henry game. The Ravens look like they are ready to go on a serious Super Bowl run. How confident are you in the Baltimore Ravens as they welcome their divisional rival, their number one rival, in the wild card game this weekend? And what are you looking at from the offensive side from the Baltimore Ravens and how they are going to do, or how you think they're going to do what they did a few weeks ago against the Steelers?
You already know what I expect for them to do, and that is get the ball to number 22. As much as we knew that they was gonna go in there and they was gonna win against Cleveland, man. It took too long for that. As a head coach, I would have loved to see my starters out of the game a little bit earlier than that. This score does not depict the fact that most of those points were scored in the fourth quarter, and Derrick Henry didn't get most of those yards until the fourth quarter of the game. And the other piece is that Cleveland played with two quarterbacks. So just imagine that they had to struggle with a team, and that's what I liked most about what I saw with Cleveland was that even though that they knew they couldn't go in there and win, man, them guys still had a little heart. Myles Garrett and them still went there because he had something to play for. He was tied as the leading for sacks in the NFL this year. But I think, oh boy, with the Bengals passed him, he had like 3 sacks in that game. But
Hendrickson.
I think Baltimore got to stick to what they know best, man. Get that ball to Derrick Henry. I don't know the extent of Zay Flowers' injury. That could be detrimental to that offense. But a heavy dose of Henry and Lamar, man, and they should be good against the Steelers because the Steelers just don't. I mean, their offense is just it's stagnant, bro. I can't say it no other way. It looked bad.
Well, I'll talk about the Steelers in a minute, and I'll talk about the Ravens in a minute. But I'm gonna give the quick shout out to the other two AFC North teams. I do applaud the Cleveland Browns for coming in and playing a tough divisional opponent who eventually won the division in this game. But this, as you mentioned, was a tight game until the fourth quarter. These two teams, all 4 of these teams, are usually going to play each other neck and neck, regardless of the record. We know that divisional games are tighter than the usual NFL game, most often than not. And especially when it is a heated divisional game, as all 4 of these teams simply don't like each other, and all 4 of them have the potential to be good. So quick shout out to the Cleveland Browns. I don't know what y'all going to do next year at quarterback. Best of luck in trying to figure that out. You are now saddled with the worst contract in the history of the National Football League, unfortunately, and you still don't have a starting quarterback. Money down the drain. Now, for the worst best team in the history of the National Football League, or at least in the 21st century, the Cincinnati Bengals.
Robbed. It was robbed.
Close, but no cigar. And as the commercial once said, you got to be quicker than that. You should have started your season. You should have started your season in November instead of December, or maybe back it up to October and not give those first 6-7 games away that y'all do every single year. Unless you have major injuries this year, you did not have an excuse. You had the number 1 passer in the league as it pertains to yardage. You had the number 1 receiver who won a Triple Crown, Jamar Chase from LSU. Congratulations to him. Number 1 receiver in receptions, touchdowns, and yardage. You had the number 1 sack leader in the NFL in Trey Hendrickson. So you have no excuse. You had one of the best offenses in the league. You just had a high school level defense. And if it's not the offensive line putting Joe Burrow in danger, it is the defense giving up 100,000 points. So please, in the offseason, do your fans a favor and invest properly and stop wasting money in free agency. Now, to the Baltimore Ravens, you hit the nail on the head. Turn around and get a ball to that number 2 running back this year in the National Football League as pertains to yardage, right behind Saquon's 2,000 yards. Derrick Henry rushed for 1,900 yards. He did not have a so-so year. He had a phenomenal year. He was right there on the cusp of getting 2,000 yards. Give him the ball 20 to 25 times, and y'all going to win. Or you have a quarterback who has 2 MVPs, should have 3 at the end of this year, but conversation for a little later, who has thrown for 4,000 yards and run for 900 himself. And we all know Lamar is the ankle breaker in the National Football League. So the Ravens are favored by 10. This is a legitimate point spread between 2 of the best teams in the league. Even though Pittsburgh has been on a 4-game slide, they just lost to 4 better teams. I don't call it a 4-game slide. Now, I'll call it we got screwed in the scheduling at the end of the year type of deal, because all 4 of those teams were better than them, even though they barely lost against the Bengals this weekend. It's going to be hard for Pittsburgh to go into Baltimore.